Hello and welcome back to another Top Trumps TBR. This is where I use my TBR cards to decide what I'm going to read each month. However, we do have a really long TBR again this month. I will also be doing the Bookopoly or Becca's Bookopoly and the Magical Readathon, which I am fucking psyched for, by the way. As a D&D nerd, newly created D&D nerd, I'm so here for this you don't even know. You don't even know. So I'm very excited for both of them, but I really enjoy Bookopoly. Like, I really enjoy Bookopoly. I also, okay, we'll do these ones first because these are the ones that of all the TBR things, I don't know what they're going to be yet because I haven't pulled them out, but also least excited for. So we will just start. We'll just get on with it. So we'll do a quick little shuffle as we do at the beginning of every time I pull them because I don't trust myself to not just pick what I want to pick. So anyway, the first one is year, so I just go with the most recent year. The first one is This Is Going to Hurt, which is 2017, and the second one is Not So Pure and Simple, which is 2020. I do have a copy of this somewhere. I'm sure I do, I just don't know where I put it. So that's the first one. Okay, next is authors. I just shuffle through them until I get an author I've not read before. So the first one is A Dark and Hollow Star. I have never read anything by Ashley Shuttleworth. This may be a debut, I'm not entirely sure, but that will be the next book. I don't know why I feel the need to hold it across myself like this. I could just... Next will be Ashley Shuttleworth's A Dark and Hollow Star. Book 2. Third is page numbers. I like to challenge myself and pick the book with the most number of pages. So the first one is The Night Country, which is 368, and then the second one is Wise Children, which is only 234. So we'll be reading The Night Country, which again, I have tried to read this before. I didn't. I was going to read the Hazelwood first and then The Night Country, but I've already read the Hazelwood like a year ago, so I should just... We'll just move on to The Night Country. Anyway, that's fine. That works for me. Next is Goodreads rating. I like to pick the book with the highest Goodreads ratings. Obviously, they are the ratings at the time that I wrote the cards out. The first one is The Stars, the Blacklist Between Them, which is 4.28. And the next one is Queen of the Conquered, which is 4.55. So, finally, going to be finishing this one, she says, knowing damn well how long this TBR is going to be. And then finally is art rating. It's completely subjective. I just got me and a few friends to vote for them. So the first one is Hollow Pike, which got 2.5 because I can barely see it. I don't think it'll be difficult to beat that. So it'll be The Fandom by Anna Day, which the irony is I don't actually have this cover. What I have is an ARC, which doesn't have this cover at all. So I guess that's how the cookie has crumbled this time. I'm gonna go get those books and the rest of my TBR. I will probably have a quick reshuffle because I do know what I've already like pulled for Bookopoly and I already know what the prompts are for the Magical Readathon. So if I can squeeze any of these books into those prompts, I will. So the next clip will be once I've done that. Okay, so my Top Trumps TBR. Not So Pure and Simple is a contemporary about virginity and young adults and things like that, so I'm hoping it will be more along the lines of like sex ed and like body positivity, but I've not really heard anyone else talk about this one, so we shall see. There's that one. Kind of going a bit blind. It doesn't fit any of my prompts. So we're going to leave that one there. We've got The Night Country, which is obviously the sequel to the Hazelwood, so I won't go into that one too much, but just know that the Hazelwood is kind of like an Alice in Wonderland meets Grimm fairy tales retelling. I have so much hair stuck to my face, it's not even funny. But it was also the book that got me out of a reading slump, so I'm really excited for book 2. The Fandom is a thriller, I think, about someone who's famous, I think, and someone stalking them. I think. A Dark and Hollow Star, I think, is going to be like a Sarah J Maas rip-off. There's Faye and stuff like this, but apparently they got super cool bat-like wings, so that's a fun take on that. And then Queen of the Conquered is a Caribbean high fantasy about a girl who can literally put herself in other people's minds and control their bodies like puppets. It's going to be super dark and I'm really excited. So those are those. I did consider putting A Dark and Hollow Star in my TBR, but as I said, I had already picked out the books and I've decided I don't want to do that, so we're not going to. So for Bookopoly, let's just go through it. Becca has created this board. I decided to use my little art thing from Leora for Gothtober because Gothtober is very soon and I'm very excited and I just want an excuse to use this graphic again, so thank you Leora. I use that as like my little going around the board thing, and I've decided I'm going to do them as graphics, and I'll put the graphics right here. I just want an excuse to put this board on everything. It's super cute. So the first roll I got was for monsters, which was a great roll. Immediately I thought this Bookopoly board is so much nicer to me than the last one was, and I've decided to be reading Hannah Witton's For the Wall. This is about a young girl where the first daughter I think is for marriage or for the army or something like that, and the second daughter is for the wall. Like, usually second daughters aren't encouraged because they get sent to the wall, but then it turns into a bit of a gothic dark romance type thing. But I'm really excited. I've been following this one for a while and I just haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, and this was a prime opportunity for me to finally get to it. And it's such an autumnal read that I'm quite excited, because I feel like September, although it's still warm, it's definitely leading into more autumnal vibes, so this one is perfect for that. Roll number 2 was Who, and this is a book where you don't know who the author is or haven't heard anything about this book, and I did consider doing a Dark and Hollow Star for this prompt as well, but purely because people have been talking about it, I have heard about it, I wanted to pick a book that I haven't heard anyone talk about. So I've decided to pick up The Blackbird Girls, which is about 2 young girls who experience Chernobyl and Chernobyl's destruction, and they get whisked to the other side of Russia to try and like save their lives. Obviously it's quite a traumatic part of history, so there is going to probably be trauma in this. I know they start off as enemies and become friends by the end. It's a middle grade, so I'm hoping it's uplifting, but I doubt it. I think it's going to be super fucking dark and sad, so this is going to make me cry, so love that for me. Roll 3 was current events, so I've decided to pick up The Cost of Knowing. This is about police brutality, racism. I don't know why that was such a difficult word for me to remember, but basically I got the NetGalley arc for this and never actually got round to it, but I originally applied for or requested it because I really enjoyed Slay by Brittany Morris. Brittany Morris has a really great writing style, but I'm really intrigued by this one, and again I think I'm going to cry. So The Cost of Knowing. The roll after that was colour, and you had to pick a colour from the last book to then help you pick your next one. So I will be reading The Foundling. Not quite the same blue, but they are both blue. We read The Familiars for the Elemental Library. This is another by Stacey Halls called The Foundling. Again, I don't know anything about this one. This was gifted to me by Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, so I'm just really excited. I'm going in for those reasons. But yeah, so we'll read that one there. Next was Feed Scroll, and I lost the photo that I had initially from Instagram, which had my Feed Scroll pic on it, and so I decided to free scroll again, and I decided to do Goodreads this time, and I was just scrolling through until it was a book that I owned, and I do happen to own this one, even though it technically doesn't come out for another couple of days. So I will be reading The Woods Are Always Watching. This is a really short thriller by Stephanie Perkins. I've read the first chapter of it on NetGalley, but I'm really glad that I finally have a paper copy so that I can actually fully sink into this. Like I said, it's a really nice short read. It's barely 200 pages, so that should tide me over quite nicely, and it has a really nice fun spooky vibe, which we love. My 6th roll I thought would be my last roll, and then it wasn't because I rolled a double, so I love that for me. I landed on most recent purchase, so I will be reading These Hollow Vows. This is the most recent book that I actually bought for myself rather than for Waypoint, because usually I will buy in books for Waypoint, and then if I sell them I sell them, and if I get a chance to read them before I sell them then they're mine. But this one I specifically bought for me because it just sounded so up my street. Again, you've got Sealy Courts and fae and magic and drama, and I just love that for me. So These Hollow Vows. And then because Bookopoly decided to be kind to me again, even though I rolled a double, I landed on monsters again, which means I've gone the whole way around the board again, which is really fun. And I decided I'm going to read Rhapsodic, which does kind of have monsters in it. You've got more fae and more bargainers and things like that. I'm saying bargainers because that's literally what the series is called. Like I don't know what a bargainer is. I'm going to find out. But this was one of the books that I picked out for Top Trumps TBR for August and never got round to. So it's also like a bit of a second chance book as well. So that's really exciting. And I think Becca has read this or has it on their TBR. I need to double check. I need to catch up on a lot of people's content, so I will double check. So that looks really exciting. So I think overall for Bookopoly, that's definitely like a TBR Let's do it so you can actually see them. That's a TBR that I think Becca could get behind. So I'm really, really happy with those. And then what I will do is, if I do manage to tick them all off, which I probably won't, but if I do manage to tick them all off, I will probably roll again. And I will notify you if that's the case. I don't think it will be, but you never know. So obviously the next thing is Magical Readathon. But before that, something I was meant to talk about before I even did the Top Trumps TBR cards was my book clubs and read-alongs. I did really well. And the reason I want to talk about those now is because a couple of those books do make it onto the Magical Readathon list, just so that I could make sure that I had enough time for all of them. Obviously we're still doing the Skullduggery Pleasant read along. We are on book 8, which is Last Stand of Dead Men. Dead Men is a kind of society of mercenaries slash soldiers that Skullduggery was part of, so I'm really, really intrigued and also kind of terrified, because if it's their last stand, like there are some of my favourite characters are in The Last Dead Men, so I hope not too many of them die. I have a sneaking suspicion most of them will, but I'm hoping that my favourites survive. But Derek Lanier is not one to let you keep your faves. So I'll just leave that at that. I'm not going to go too much into what the story of Skullduggery Pleasant has been thus far, but essentially it's a middle grade to YA series. We're definitely more in YA territory here. Middle grade to YA series, which is about a young girl called Valkyrie who discovers witches slash sorcerers who are trying to take over the world and then has to use magic to save them, but it also has like mystery elements and stuff in. That's really fun. For the Ixia Chronicles read along, we have moved on to Fire Study, which is book 3. This is obviously once Yelena has kind of... No, that's a spoiler. We're going to ignore that. This is a series about a young girl called Yelena who discovers she has magic, and I'm going to leave it there because anything else is spoilers. If you like Throne of Glass or Cruel Prince or anything like that, please fucking give this series a go. It's so good and I'm really excited to be continuing on with this one. I don't have the Hullabaloo Book Club book, but that's going to be Opal and Nev. Know nothing about that, but apparently it's very much like Daisy and the Six, which I've been avoiding, so that's going to be fun. And then for books and bevies, I'm going to be reading The Khan. The prompt for books and bevies for September is a cocktail to do with something, I can't even remember. I will put the cocktail below because I'm so useless, but the prompt is organised crime. I think it's going to be like a martini or something, maybe. But anyway, so The Khan is about a Pakistani woman whose husband is the leader of this mob gang type thing, but when he goes missing or dies, she takes over running this gang, and it just sounds fucking sick. So we've got mobsters and great rep, and just I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this one, and I'm pretty sure this is a debut as well, so hyped. Anyway, that was a weird noise. I don't know why I felt the need to do that. Okay, so let's move on then to... I got distracted. Let's move on then to my Magical Readathon. My TBR for the Magical Readathon. Now, if you haven't gone and watched the announcement video, I don't know what you want from me. Like, it's been out for ages. Go do that. Even people that I know aren't massive readers but are D&D fans, I've been sending this to so that they can get involved, because it's just, I'm so excited. It's so much better than what it was, and I know lots of people were really attached to what it was, but I'm so hyped for this version. Anyway, enough gushing and fangirling, but we could be here all day. I've decided to be a wildling from Dark Meadow and Iltyrian. I'm going to have to learn how to say my own race, but we'll get to that. But essentially you're working your way through this Novice Path to get onto the next bit that's happening in April. There are prompts for my race and where I come from, but also that's just like a standard set Novice Path. So we'll do the Novice Path first. The first prompt is to read a book with a map, of which I will be reading Fire Study. This has a really shit map, but it is a map, so we're counting that one for the first book. Next is to read a book that has been tempting you for a while. This could be a mistake, I'll admit that. I'll admit this could be a mistake. I'm reading this anthology. It's 3 books by Holly Black. It's more of her Fae type stories, which I'm excited for. I've heard they're not good, but I'm still really tempted to read them. Like, I don't know if I just need more Holly Black in my life, but I'm just really excited. So I'm going to try to at least get through the first one, which is Tithe. I'm going to try and get through Tithe. If I can get through the whole thing, I'll be really proud of myself, but I'm just going to try and get through Tithe. Because why she had to go and put another book that's 700 pages long on her TBR. She'll never know. And the next prompt is to read a standalone. So I'll be reading Fire with Fire. This was one of the Fairy Loot picks, but this is not Fairy Loot copy. I'm just intrigued by it because lots of people have been enjoying it from Fairy Loot and I kind of want to see what the hype is about, but I think it's a standalone. So we're going with that one. And next is a book featuring ghosts. So I'm going to be reading Blackwater Sister. This was recommended to me by Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. I think this is a ghost story where a young woman, basically her grandmother's ghost, like attaches herself to her. I don't know much more about it than that. That was kind of all I needed to hear, but it sounds great, so I'm really intrigued by that one. Next is a thriller or mystery book. Now I've been reading some quite hardcore thrillers in prep for having great books to recommend for Gothtober, so I'm going to go the other way and read Pride and Premeditation, which is a murder mystery set around Pride and Prejudice. I love the cover, I love the premise, I'm really excited. Apparently they're both lawyers that are trying to like solve the crime, so that's where the enemies bit comes in, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Next is a 5-star prediction. I've gone for The Unbroken. This is a high fantasy LGBTQ story about two women who are basically starting a revolution, and it sounds sick. I'm really excited. People have really enjoyed this thus far that I've seen, so I think it's going to be a 5 stars. I will be really surprised if it isn't, to be honest. Next is a school setting. Now I need your opinion on this. I'm going to try and read the It Girl series. I'm going to start with just the first one, but in the comments down below, let me know if you would be interested in watching me vlog reading all of these. I think I have at least 8 of them, but I think there were like 14 in total, so they're really easy reads, like they're really short reads, so I could definitely do them in a week. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in watching, and if not, that's fine, I understand, I won't be offended. Next, okay, so for being a wildling, I had to pick a book that was set mostly in the woods or a forest outside. I don't know if this counts, but it has Darkling Wood in the title, so I'm going to be reading In the Darkling Wood by Emma Carroll. This is a historical middle grade, but I think it also has fae and fairy tale and supernatural elements to it as well, so I'm quite excited for this one. This has come up in a TBR a couple of times, so I really need to just fucking read it because it's super cute and it just sounds like my jam. So there's that one. And then next is a dark academia. I've decided to read Plague Band Heroines because why not? Why not just add another massive book to my TBR? I'm going to be buddy reading this with Ali over from The Chaotic Reader. She's huge. This is about some girls who get killed by wasps, and then like 100 years later they're making a film about the girls who get killed by wasps, and then more creepy shit happens, and it's set at a university / prep school, so it's gonna be dark and twisted and gothic, but it's definitely dark academia and I'm really excited. And then finally I had to read a book with a crow on the front, and the only one that I have is Demon Voices by Philip Pullman. Now I did buy this pre him kind of definitely being massively racist on Twitter. He has apologised since then. I haven't really checked too much into it, so I really hope he hasn't been a complete arsehole because I have quite a few Philip Pullman books, but I just want to acknowledge that that is a thing that's happened, and that's something I'm going to be dealing with internally going forwards. So this is a book on his writing and how he writes, and he's done a lot with the Society of Authors, but the Society of Authors have dropped him. He was originally either their president or their chair, and they've like stepped away from him, which just goes to show how fucking awful whatever it was he said was. Like I said, I haven't looked too much into it because I want to be able to do that from a non-biased perspective. I really like his writing, his books mean a lot to me, and I've recently spent quite a bit of money on his books, so there is that part of my brain that goes, well, don't just throw them all away. There's also that part of my brain that goes, you would literally do that for any other author though. Like, if any other author did that, you would bin all of their books. So what does he have that means you're gonna put that aside? So just so you know, that's a conversation that I'm having in my own head. I don't need your opinion on that, I'm working on it, but It's a book on writing by Philip Pullman, who was one of my favourite authors. Might need to find a new favourite author, one that isn't quite so problematic. So there it is, my long ass TBR. I'm not going to take a photo with me holding them all up because I don't have the physical strength. But let me know which book on this list is most interesting to you. Most of these are available via Waypoint, so feel free to check out those links. Help my content and treat yourself, and other than that, have a nice day.